Hello Etsy enthusiasts, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm so excited to share with you the secrets of Etsy SEO for 2024. My name is Cierra Smith, and as a seven-figure top-rated Etsy expert, I have mastered the art of optimizing listings on Etsy, and today I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. I do want to introduce myself a little bit more. Again, my name is Cierra Smith. I have been optimizing, managing, and analyzing Etsy shops since 2019. I have worked on 100 plus shops, including those that have since accrued 1.8 million plus in revenue, and it's just been a very exciting and educational journey. I have a degree in business analytics, so I'm very excited to share this knowledge, expertise, and experience through this channel to just try to reach as many Etsy sellers as possible, because it seems like a lot of people are very confused. I mean, these are everyday, a lot of people I'm working with everyday mom and pop shops just trying to transform their lives, get out of the 9 to 5, really make it big on Etsy, leave their work behind, and really build the life that they want. So I'm hoping I'm able to transfer as much of that knowledge as possible, starting with Etsy SEO. But please feel free to comment down below any other ideas that you would like for me to cover in a future video. Now let's dive into it and really talk about how to transform your Etsy shop's SEO. So what factors into Etsy SEO? So understanding SEO is naturally, it's crucial to really forming a successful, sustainable Etsy shop. SEO is not just about titles and tags, it is about the synergy between your title and tags, the first few lines of your description, your attributes, and the category that you choose for that listing. You need to blend long tail keywords. This is a formula that I have just found to work the best for visibility in the long run. If you blend mostly long tail keywords, those that are longer and more specific, and people narrow down their search like that, they're typically ready to buy because they have really narrowed it down. Etsy has recommended stuff and they really have got down to a longer search term. Mixing those with approximately 3 short tail high volume keywords, that is ultimately what I have found to be the best formula for long-term visibility on Etsy, as long as you have a very strong listing. Make sure you use every bit of your title's 140 characters and all 13 tags, prioritizing, again, long tail keywords for specificity. So here, this is a listing that we're looking at that I did. So I'm trying to just kind of walk you through this example a little bit. So this is the title here. You see 139 out of 140 characters. This is free, like real estate right here. You really want to make sure you're using as much of the title as possible, because this factors a lot into Etsy's SEO. Like their algorithm, it cares a lot about the title. The order of the keywords does not matter. It does not rank. Like a certain keyword is not going to rank any more strongly depending on where it is in the title. What you do want to keep in mind, however, is when you write your title, keep in mind that only the first characters actually show up in search. As an example, if you click on preview in Etsy's new listing view, you can see exactly which characters are showing up as the title in Etsy search. So this is the preview here. All we're seeing is home caregiver planner dash non ... So that is something to keep in mind. If you're not letting your images do the talking, then you really do need an informative title. You want it to kind of start relatively informative so there's no question about what that product is, which is why I am a huge advocate for letting your photos do the talking so that you're able to really use your title for SEO. But that's really for another video. So this title here started with home caregiver planner. It's worth noting that all of these keywords were researched and validated. I researched them using several third-party SEO tools, and I also kind of validated them by actually searching these search terms on Etsy and looking through the listings, looking for labels like bestseller labels, how many carts are it in, when did it last sell. So all this kind of stuff, that kind of factored into whether I was able to determine whether a keyword was actually strong. So all these keywords were pretty strong for this respective home care business space. So I started with home caregiver planner. That was the first keyword. It's worth also noting that home care is being targeted, home caregiver, caregiver planner. Then we have that dash in there, and then we have non-medical home health, non-medical home health caregiving, home health caregiving, health caregiving, caregiving planner, planner caregiving, planner caregiver, caregiver schedules, caregiver daily task, or caregiver daily, or daily task checklist, caregiver daily task checklist, caregiver list, caregiver checklist. I mean, this is just kind of, I'm trying to show you all the keywords that are being targeted, all the different combinations that are being targeted. And you'll notice that for some of those keywords, they may sound a little bit weird, but when you think about it, a lot of times actually shoppers on any platform start with nouns and then they end with adjectives based on what Etsy or the search platform is recommending. So a lot of times it's smart to start with a noun and follow with adjectives for at least some keywords, because people tend to narrow down their search based on what the platform is recommending via search suggestions. So this is just the title. We scroll down, we look at the tags as well, and we see non-medical home, home care business, home care templates, editable home care, caregiver forms, caregiver checklist, caregiver planner, caregiver daily log, caregiver daily task, caregiver schedule, task checklist, caregiver organizer, caregiving planner. So again, you can kind of see that synergy between the title and tags. For really, really strong keywords, you do definitely want to make sure that they are being targeted both within the title and within the tags. And you want to make sure that you are targeting really as many keywords as possible, highly relevant keywords as possible in the tags as well. And again, you want to prioritize longer tail search terms. All of these are, I would say, are long tail search terms. And you want, ideally, you do want each tag to be something that somebody could search to find your product and actually find it to be relevant and want to click into that product and purchase it. So all of these keywords are pretty relevant to that. So home care business, home care templates, editable home care. If somebody were to search those and they were to see this item, most of them are going to click into the item, or at least are going to find this item to be relevant and think about clicking into the item. Sometimes you will notice that, you can only have up to 20 characters for a tag. So you may have to split up a tag and have a keyword in there that's slightly less relevant to that actual item. In that case, keep in mind that Etsy's algorithm is pretty smart and it is mapping together different keywords. So it's going to be putting in that work, but especially as that listing starts gaining sales history and really gets a strong listing quality score, then Etsy's going to be putting even more work in to show your listing to the right customer. So keep all that in mind as well. You'll find sometimes even that for search terms you search in Etsy, you'll see a best-selling listing that actually doesn't have your keyword anywhere within that listing. And that's just because Etsy's their algorithm is relatively smart. There's a lot going on in the back end between mapping together similar words. They're using previous shopping behavior, previous searching behavior. So they're using a lot that factors into those search results. So keep all that in mind. You really, really want strong listings. And then Etsy's SEO is going to work amazingly for you, but strong listings that when they are found actually lead to conversions. But again, just talking about this SEO, this synergy here, we're seeing all of these tags. A lot of them were being targeted within the title, but it's worth noting that not all keywords that you use in your tags need to show up in your title. You'll notice that you have more character space within your tags than you do in your title. So again, those strongest keywords should be repeated in both, but you're going to have keywords targeted in your tags that are not being targeted in your title, and that is perfectly fine. Etsy, it's not yes, it is. The strongest keyword should be within both, but if it's a strong listing and it has that keyword somewhere within the listing, that is really all you need for Etsy to start showing that listing for that keyword for certain customers, and then to see how those customers are engaging with that listing. So that's why it's so important that that listing is actually very relevant and is a high converting. You set it up to be as high converting as possible, because Etsy is they care a lot about that engagement with that listing. And when they first put it out, they are examining how customers engage with that listing based on the keywords that you have optimized it for. If people are not engaging with that listing, they are not going to be showing it to a lot of customers, hence why you may sometimes find that certain listings kind of appear to be dead. Another thing I want to mention about titles is you'll see that I did have a divider in here. A lot of people they'll use commas, they'll use dashes, they'll use vertical bars, they'll use different things to divide the title. And what I can say for that is it does split up the keywords. When you add in dividers, you do split up the keywords. If I were to do non-medical, home health, caregiving, planner, that's pretty long, but that's actually, something somebody could search. If I were to put that comma in there, planner, caregiver would never be something that was targeted. And that's not the strongest keyword in itself, but that could be something that Etsy recommends at some point, especially for certain customers. Or if caregiver schedules, again, if we were to put comma in here, schedules, caregiver wouldn't be targeted. If we were to do caregiver daily task, put a comma in there, daily task checklist. I say not targeted. It would not be a exact match. it would be more like broad keyword matching. So with Etsy, they have like exact keyword matching and then they have broad keyword matching. So it is perfectly fine to have dividers in there, but you are not exact keyword matching for those keywords when you do have those dividers in there. You are broad keyword matching, and naturally Etsy does give a little bit more rank to people, to listings that are exact matching for that keyword. But again, that engagement matters way more than your SEO ever will. But at least like if we had two completely new listings with no kind of past qualities, listing quality score, maybe two new shops compared to each other. If somebody were to search home health caregiving planner and somebody had home health caregiving planner exactly versus somebody else who had home health, caregiving planner, hypothetically anyway, according to what I've observed and even their own seller handbook, like the advice that they give, they're saying that you would not be exact keyword matching. A person who is exact keyword matching, they would outrank the person who is not. However, you'll notice that a lot of people do use dividers. So I'm not encouraging you necessarily not to use dividers, but I'm just encouraging you to be very, very mindful of the keywords that you may be splitting up. I will say that what I've observed is that putting dividers in does not matter at all for lower price point items. It helps with visibility and you're not breaking up any keywords. It really, really helps if you have a strong listing. Not putting those dividers in there is normally a smart move. However, if you have a high price point item, like more than $100 or so, it definitely can help to have those dividers in there just to give people more peace of mind about what they're purchasing, especially if you are a new company, you don't have any reviews, you don't have any sales. If they're seeing a title that's clearly written for SEO, that could be a cause of concern for some customers. And I've observed that. I've just observed click rates for customers who have sold higher price point items, and that is what I've observed. That the click rates for titles that look to be almost not, I wouldn't even say spammy, but just that are clearly written for SEO, they tend to have slightly lower click rates for high price point items. So again, like 100 plus. However, that is search facing. So keep in mind again, only the first few characters are search facing. So that's kind of like what I did even here. Like you'll see that the very first beginning, I do have that divider in there. And then after that, I took out the dividers because you really want, by the time somebody clicks into a listing, you want them to fall in love with that listing and to not really care too much about the title, because shoppers on Etsy do not normally care about the title. It's when those price points get a little bit higher price point. Sometimes they do care a little bit just again about it looking spammy, but people typically don't. That's just not something they care about. If you let your images do the talking, you can have a title that's purely written for SEO, like you see here. This cover photo is very, very informative. By the time they click into this listing, they are going to fall in love with this. We've addressed their pain points, their competitive advantages. We've appealed to ethos. We're having these, what our customers saying. We have these meet the creators. We are really, really connecting with that customer and addressing their pain points and just alleviating any risk that they may feel they're going to be taking by purchasing from this shop, which is still relatively new. And I will say that already this shop is doing relatively well. So I would say it's doing really well actually, but it is a less competitive space. So that's just something to note. These are working, this SEO, these images, they are working. So I'm not just saying that, but they're actually working. So that definitely worth noting. Now this is a digital listing, and I did mention the synergy between like attributes and category. For digital listings, they don't typically have too many attributes. These are the attributes, and if they are something like your listing addresses these attributes, it has a primary color, a secondary color, maybe appeals to a season or it's a certain fashion style or home decor style, these attributes, they do change based on the category that you select. You want to select those as well, especially for certain categories where you can select materials. I've noticed in times past where somebody was showing up for a very strong wood keyword that had wood in it, yet wood was not anywhere within it didn't look to be anywhere within the SEO of the listing. It wasn't in the title, the description, or the tags, but clearly that listing was showing up because it was within the attributes of that listing. They had selected, within the materials dropdown, they had selected wood. So all that does factor into SEO. So definitely fill in your attributes because it does factor into SEO, and Etsy will kind of map those attributes to certain keywords that you've manually input. And now about category. Category here is templates. Again, with digital products, the category does not matter as much, I would say, because Etsy doesn't really go out of the way to auto-generate tags based on that category. But you will notice that depending on the category that you do select, Etsy does, like, they auto generate tags for you. So the only one that we see for this listing is personalized gifts. That is purely because it is categorized under templates, which we can also see is subcategorized under all these things, that starts under paper and party supplies. So Etsy auto tags it with personalized gifts. However, you'll notice for certain listings and certain categories like men's polo shirts, that is showing up under like gifts for him, gifts for boyfriends, gifts for husbands. So for other keywords like sweatshirts, that's showing up under a lot of different things, especially if you were to do like a gender neutral, like under that category. It's just Etsy auto generates a lot of tags for certain product categories because they know that that item can fall under all those different kinds of tags. And typically they are tags that have to do with gifts because people do come to Etsy for gifts. So gifts for him, gifts for her, gifts for sister, gifts for wife, gifts for daughter. It's just, they'll have a lot of those tags in there. So always I would recommend any kind of research you do, scroll down to the bottom of your competitors, look at what category they're using, look at what tags they're showing up under, and just make sure that you're not wasting space by manually entering a tag that Etsy auto generates. Because if I were to waste one of these spaces and type in personalized gifts when Etsy is already like auto tagging with personalized gifts, that is a wasted space. I'm missing out on an entire keyword because I optimized it for a keyword that it was already showing up for. So definitely look that over, and it can even help you to figure out which category you should be putting your products under. Now, how do you find the right keywords? Now, identifying the perfect keywords is very, very hard. But it is I'm not even going to say necessarily that perfect is subjective, but you can find a very strong assortment of keywords because Etsy is mapping together so many different things. So I wouldn't say to stress too much about it. What I would tell you to do is just to start with the Etsy search bar. When you have a good understanding of who your target customer is, you can start with the search bar and look at what Etsy is recommending. So here they already have some suggested searches based on this listing, which is relatively cool. But if I were to know that this person normally starts searching by typing in home care business, then that's just a way to get started. Like if I have anything that's relevant to this, then I would definitely want to make sure that I am optimizing that listing with these keywords because you know for a fact that if Etsy is recommending it, people are going to narrow down their search using those search terms. So home care business cards, home care business plan, home care business blueprint. Again, I have these SEO tools installed that do show me estimated monthly searches. This is Everbee. This is SaleSamurai, this in this color, and then this is Etsy Hunt, which is clearly not fully loading right now. But I do typically just use Everbee and SaleSamurai, and I'll use Erank as well. So these two are they're all just Chrome extensions. Erank is not a Chrome extension, but Everbee and SaleSamurai are. So I'm able to have those search stats showing up directly on search suggestions, which is super valuable. This is live data right here. The stats are kind of a bit more directional because they are estimates, but they help a lot more than just these search terms showing up by themselves. So if I wanted to do even more research, I could click on See More, and that's the Everbee Chrome extension. And when I click on See More, then it shows up. So you just kind of have to give it a moment to load, and then it will start showing you some related keywords. So I would say oftentimes you'll notice that for certain tools you may have to play around with a bit more to have more relevant keywords show up. So they do have filters, they have customize, export, like view, and then exporting that data. There's so many more steps I could show you for this, but just exporting that data and putting it in a spreadsheet, category, like grouping the data with keywords pulled from other tools, and then kind of like using some conditional formatting and really figuring out where there are gaps in the market can be a really strong way to get started to make sure that you are going after gaps in the market where there's high searches and low competition. However, I do always recommend that you actually search any of these keywords that you are going after, again, to validate that these are truly still strong keywords. Erank does show some trend data in there, which I will show you. So if I were to type in home care business on erank.com, I'm just going to show you what that keyword research page looks like. They do include some trend data in there, so that can be a bit helpful telling whether a keyword is actually still strong. But that's why I do recommend just using the search bar on Etsy, because if Etsy's recommending it, you know that it's still at least relatively strong because you know customers are actually still seeing that search term as something to narrow that search down with. But this is just an example of search trends. So you can get an idea of how many people are actually searching for it. So it is interesting to note, and this is how you know that these tools are just estimates, because I will say again that this shop is already doing well. Could it be just the other longer tail keywords that are bringing in those searches? That is something that could be explored, but definitely it's worth taking the insights that you get from different tools kind of with a grain of salt, because they are estimates used from the data that Etsy is willing to sell to those tools. Now, going back to the title, there is one other tip that I want to mention for writing your titles. So when writing them, try to avoid repetition. So just as an example, if you were to have a listing and you have to choose between keywords, an example would be opting to use like fall porch decor and fall porch sign. Using like fall porch decor and front porch sign instead of fall porch decor and fall porch sign. And that is to prevent targeting fall porch twice. So the first two is fall porch decor and front porch sign. And by doing that, it's going after fall porch, and it has front porch, and it has decor, and it has sign. Those second two, just fall porch decor and fall porch sign, it had fall porch, decor, and sign. It's not targeting front porch as well. And Etsy does have broad keyword matching. So every single keyword or word, whatever you call it, that you have in your title, it can be mapped together to create a keyword. So it's better, and it typically helps with it does help with your visibility. Again, this is a recommendation that's coming from the Etsy Seller Handbook that Etsy themselves has said to just avoid repetition, because they are going to be putting in some of that work for you, and you want to make sure that you are being shown for as many relevant keywords as possible. So that is just another little word of advice in the title writing space. More or less, this same principle can be applied to tags. It is better to have a diversified strategy. Again, you do want to avoid repeating tags, and remember that categories and attributes, just again, back to that, don't repeat tags that are already showing up because of your category or your attribute, but you do, just to go a little bit deeper on that as well, you want your tags to really be as distinct as possible to cover a broader range of potential searches. So as an example that Etsy has provided, they said like you wouldn't want to go after octopus art print and octopus art poster within the same listing. It would be better to be going after like octopus art print and animal poster. That is an example that they gave, and they just say that it's more diversified and you are going to be showing up for more keywords. So that is another thing to keep in mind, that it's more specific to your actual tags. So again, to give you another example of the synergy between the tags and titles, let's say you were to start with the seed keyword of handwritten recipe cutting board, which actually is a very strong keyword on Etsy. It's a highly searched for term. So if you were to start with that and your tags are maybe handwritten recipe and recipe cutting board, then let's say what your title could be. So you could start with handwritten recipe cutting board and then continue to elongate that seed keyword. So handwritten recipe cutting board recipe. Cutting board recipe actually is a strong keyword again, so just bear with me on these orders. So a handwritten recipe, cutting board recipe, engraved charcuterie board, personalized serving board, wood cutting board, personalized recipe board. So that targets a lot of high volume keywords without unnecessary repetition. So we saw recipe cutting board, we saw cutting board recipe, we saw recipe engraved charcuterie, we saw engraved charcuterie, we saw charcuterie board personalized, we saw board personalized, we saw personalized serving board, we saw serving board wood, we saw wood cutting board, we saw cutting board personalized, we saw recipe board, we saw personalized recipe board. So it's just a lot of examples in there of just those are exact keyword matches, but there are also plenty of broad keyword matches in there as well. So that's an example of a title that I've written that did work well. Now, as for descriptions, they do not matter quite as much as titles or tags really at all. Like there was a time where they did not matter at all for Etsy SEO, and even now they don't matter in the sense of they don't really matter as they would apply to like in the sense of traditional SEO. Etsy has explained that the descriptions, the top of the description matters in the sense of who they show that listing to. They kind of they'll use it to match it with certain customers, typically based on like their past searching behavior and purchasing behavior. That is what Etsy has said. So it's not really in the traditional sense of descriptions. But it is worth having some of those same strong keywords that you're going after within your title and tags within the top of your description. For Etsy, they say first 150 characters matters for the Etsy SEO, and for Google, it's first 200 characters at least matters the most for SEO, but I'm not a Google optimization specialist, so just keep that in mind as well. Don't overthink it, and I will say to still use that section to optimize for readability as well as SEO, because the top of the description is the first thing that anybody sees. You'll notice on Etsy, people don't even see the rest of this description unless they actually click on see item details, or learn more about this item in certain cases. So it's worth actually writing the top of that description for some readability in there, especially if it is a high price point item. You don't want that to be just a comma delimited list of keywords. There are certain customers who just don't appreciate that, especially if they're about to spend a lot of money on it. So if you can really use that to increase like that perceived value of the listing, bring up some value to that customer, really explain that listing, then that is perfect. But then again, having some of those keywords in there, that's really what you want to do. Again, why it's so important to let your visuals do the talking, so that you don't have to so it doesn't quite matter as much about how much value you're bringing to like the title or the description. But that is just, the description does not matter too much, so don't stress too much over it, but it does matter a little bit. Now, the last thing that I did want to mention before closing this video out is how to deal with misspellings and plurals. So for misspellings and plurals, Etsy uses a process called stemming to deal with this. It matches the shopper's search query to the root word of your keywords. So for example, a search for diaries will also match with diary. This means that you should focus on correct spelling, since Etsy automatically corrects typos for shoppers, and it also means that you don't really have to optimize for plurals, because Etsy will be showing that listing to people who search it singular or plural. So again, diaries uses up more characters than diary, yet they have said that they stem that keyword and that essentially it's showing up as diary, so it'll match with diary. So that's just, it's just something worth noting so that you can save some more characters. And again, this is in the Etsy Seller Handbook, so I would recommend reading as much of the Etsy Seller Handbook as you can about SEO to familiarize yourselves with the rules that they literally put out there for public use. So that is it. Mastering Etsy SEO, it is about being strategic and understanding the platform's algorithm and constantly refining your approach. But remember, it is an ongoing process. It is not a one-time fix. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more insights into Etsy success. And I could offer so much more depth on this topic, so maybe let me know if you want like a part 2 or something. There's so much more that could be said than in this relatively short YouTube video or in other short YouTube videos, which does lead me to a relatively exciting announcement. I am trying to put together an online course designed to elevate your Etsy store. I do want to make sure that it's perfectly aligned with your needs. So this is where you could come in. I'm seeking insights directly from Etsy sellers like you to really ensure that this course really hits its mark. So I have a link to a form in my description, and by filling it out, you will be contributing to the creation of a course that is truly tailored to Etsy sellers' real-world challenges and goals. So I would really, really appreciate it. You'll really help shape the content, the focus, and the structure of this course. Again, that link in the description. Very, very simple. It's quick to fill out, and your thoughts and experiences, they will directly influence the creation of a course that really speaks to the heart of Etsy selling. And as a token of my appreciation, participants will receive exclusive early access and special offers when the course is ready. So I can't wait to hear what you have to say. Again, feel free to share anything that you also have to say just in the comments down below. Can't wait to read through you guys' comments as well and check me out in future videos. Feel free to subscribe and join the family, because I'm going to be dropping knowledge bombs as much as you all want. Very excited to be here. So happy selling, and I will see you in the next video.